Hello students, in today's lecture we are going to study about the different approaches that have carried out to study the animal behavior. Okay, and basically in today's lecture we are going to focus on the psychological approach to study the animal behavior. Okay, so what are the approaches or why there is need to study an animal behavior? Okay, studying any animal and comparing different species can offer a useful information in order to human behavior also. Okay, the study of animal behavior gain insight into evolutionary process, that is some division or some branch of the animal behavior that will look into the similarities and the differences between the human and animal behavior, and this is useful for gaining insight into the developmental and the evolutionary processes. Okay, then it also helps to generalize information to human being, that is studying the animal behavior will provide an observation of a generalized human population. Okay, and there has been many studies which have been carried out which suggest that uh, whether a certain medication might be safe or appropriate for humans. Okay, or even they can even suggest that certain surgical procedures might work in humans, and whether certain learning approaches will be useful in the classroom. Okay, all uh, this work of learning and the behavior. Okay, the theories, the psychologist demonstrate that the animal could be uh, trained to salivate at the sound of the bell. Okay, for example, with the dog, remember, or you have heard this salivate at the sound of the bell. For example, if you have a pet like dog, and if you train him, okay, at a certain time, if you ring that bell like daily, um, at uh, like at a constant time. Okay, if you ring that bell and that time you have provided the food or meal to your pet, he will remember it, and at that time when you ring that bell, that time that dog will salivate. This is the study which was carried out by the psychologist in order in order to understand the learning of the animals. Okay, then it also the study of psychology of animal behavior also provides the developmental processes. The study of developmental processes, that is comparative psychology, has also used to study the developmental processes. For example, in a like the scientist who named uh, Conrad Lawrence's were he had proposed a well-known imprinting experiment. That is, he discovered that geese and ducks have a critical period of development in which they must attach to the parental figure. Okay, and a process known as a imprinting. Okay, in imprinting what happens, they learn from their parents. Okay, so he found that he could get the birds to imprint on himself. If the animal missed this vital opportunity, they would not develop the attachment later in a lifetime. Okay, so this is about why we need to study the animal behavior. Okay, so this idea, the methods and the theories which established during the 19th century forms the foundation of the today's experimental approaches in order to carry out the study of the animal behavior. Okay, and there has been several experiments have been carried out in order to investigate the animal behavior. Okay, and based on this, there are three main approaches which have um, which were noted, that is comparative physiological comparative psychological approach, ethological approach, and behavioral approach, behavioral or ecological or social biological approach or physiological approach. Okay, so comparative psychological approach. So in today's lecture we are going to focus on the comparative psychological approach only. So comparative psychological approach involves the psychologist and plus physiologist. Okay, and they have attempted to determine the cause which related to the specific behavior in an animal. Okay, and this all practical experiment was carried out under the control mechanism. Okay, whereas in the ethological approach, it is a classical approach which is concerned with primarily with the functional significance and the evolution of behavioral pattern. Okay, and this involves the mechanism like including the tribes, innate releasing mechanism, and similar concepts. Okay, whereas in the behavioral ecological and the sociobiological approach will involve a behavioral ecologist and a sociobiologist, which have explored the ways in which the animal will interact with their living plus non-living environment in their ecosystem, and they have applied the principles of evolutionary biology in order to study their social behavior and the organization of animals. So first we will see the comparative psychological behavior. Comparative psychological behavior is actually a branch of psychology that will concern with the study of the animal behavior. Okay, it includes the modern research which was carried out in the animal behavior, and this research was begun with the work of the Charles Darwin and the Georges Romans, and in this field they have grown into multidisciplinary subjects, and now there is many multidisciplinary subjects that are biologists, psychologists, anthropologists, ecologists, then genetics, and many other contributes to the study of the animal behavior. Okay. And there are comparative in this comparative psychological approach, they will utilizes a comparative methods to study the animal behavior, and this comparative methods will involve comparing the similarities and differences among the species in order to gain an understanding the evolutionary relationship. Okay, so first it will involve the comparative study between the similarities and the differences among the species in order to gain the understanding of the evolutionary relationship. Okay, second comparative method which is used in comparative psychology is the comparing the modern species of animals to the ancient species. Okay, so there are two comparative methods which are used in the comparative psychology, that is comparing the similarity and the differences among the species, and another one is the compare the modern species of animals with the ancient species. Okay, so actually there is a history behind this, that is regarding the comparative psychology. So there are different scientists or the psychologists who proposes different theories regarding the comparative psychologist. And for the first time, the term the comparative psychology was uh, coined or come into force by the Piers Lawrence, a student of a Charles Darwin and a George Romans. He became the first to use the term in his book Comparative Psychology in the year 1864. Okay, and after that there has been also a different like there are many people who have contributed in order to the development of the comparative psychology to understand the animal behavior. Okay, so now we'll see what is what is the major topic or the role of comparative psychology focus to or they have an interest to. The comparative psychologist will focus on the individual behavior of a certain animal species like primates in order to learn more about topics such as the personal grooming. You have heard about personal grooming. It is mostly seen in apes and monkeys. Okay, then play, then nesting, hoarding, eating, and movement behavior. Okay, and other topics that cause the or help in understanding the comparative physiology psychologist include the reproductive behavior, then imprinting, social behavior, learning, conscious communications, instincts, and motivations. Okay, so the comparative psychologists will often uh, focus or study on the first is the evolution, that is how evolutionary processes have contributed to certain patterns of the behavior. Okay, then hereditary, that is how genetic contributes to behavior, means how this particular behavior is passed on to the next generation. Okay, then adaptation and learning, that is how the environment contributes to the behavior. There has been learning behavior also in which the the organism will adapt to a particular environment or to a particular stimulus. Okay, in order to survive. Okay, that will include in how this environment will contribute in order to survive in the changing environment. Okay, then mating, how different species reproduce. There has been many different mating behavior observed in most of the animal kingdom. Yeah, so what are the how this different species will contribute or will in order to study the different mating behavior in a different species in order to reproduce. Okay, then parenting, how the parental behavior contributes to the offspring behavior. See, all these approaches have been studied under the comparative psychologist. Okay, so with this we have completed the today's topic, that is approaches to the study of the behavior. Under this we have completed the psychological behavior. Okay, psychological approach. If you have any question regarding this topic, then please let me know. Okay, thank you, student.